Hello, welcome to Chico, California Steak's webcast, Life Sketches. I'm Melanie McLaughlin, and today we're visiting with Laurie Bowles. Thank you so much for coming and talking tonight.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. I want to know just a little bit about you, your family, and what you do.
Okay. So I come from a small family. So it's my sister and I and our parents. I'm married to Dave, and we have 4 children, 3 girls and a boy, not in that order. And then I still can't believe it that I'm a grandma to 6, 2 of who were born on the same day. So
6 grandkids.
That's crazy.
That's really fun. And what do you do for work?
I am a nursing instructor, which still amazes me. I feel like it is my dream job come true. And since I went back to school as an adult, I would have never thought it was possible to go into teaching nurses.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. Tell us about your career path and how you ended up as a nursing instructor.
Okay. So I was at BYU, and my plan was to become a physical therapist. So I was on that path, and my advisor told me that I shouldn't be a physical therapist. He said that I was just going to get married and I wouldn't get my master's, and he really encouraged me to go into nursing. But I didn't want to be a nurse. So I did what I wanted to do, and then exactly what he said would happen happened. And I graduated, we moved for Dave's work, and we had kids, and then it was just too hard to go back to get my master's. So I was at home mom for about 16 years, and then I decided to go back to school, and nursing rose to the top as my choice. And it's just interesting to me. It never occurred to me that I could be a nursing instructor. So when I'm trying to decide, do I want to be a high school biology teacher or do I want to teach nursing? And the impression I had was that I needed to do nursing. And then when it just basically materialized, I wasn't even looking for a job, and I was offered, a part-time gig as a nursing instructor. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is teaching, which is what I wanted to do, and teaching nursing. And I just never saw that coming at all. So I loved my patients as a nurse, and I love my students as a teacher. Just connecting with different personalities, backgrounds every single semester.
And what are you doing currently in your position as nursing instructor?
I'm also the nursing department chair. So I applied for that, and I'm learning all kinds of leadership skills and management skills that I never had before.
So can I ask, do you enjoy the instructor side more than the leadership side?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So I get some release time where I'm not teaching to help me out on my department duties. And I definitely enjoy being in the classroom more than I enjoy the department duties.
What's your overall takeaway from becoming a nursing instructor at this stage in life?
I feel like having your own grown kids is very good preparation for a lot of things. So I view my students like my kids, even though some of them are my age. And I just think, how do they learn? What's best for them? I had a student that was a very physical student, and I noticed that in the lab, if I just came behind him and put my hand just kind of on the top of his back, he performed a lot better because that was what he needed. He needed that reassurance. So I try and think what is best for this student to help them learn this difficult material.
That's really interesting. So I like that you pulled in your kids. Like your experience as a mom has helped you as an instructor, right?
Yes, and it also helped me as a nurse because when you get to the hospital, you're in charge of 4 to 5 patients, and I was used to tracking 4 kids. So it's like, what are you feeding my patient? Where are you taking my patient? To my patient, you can't walk unless you have a walker, and you can't do this. Being a nurse requires you to be a little bit bossy. And my patients would ask me, why did you become a nurse? And I would say, well, I took my two strongest traits, which is being nosy and being bossy, and I get paid for them here. So it's just a win-win.
And so was that your approach to being a mom too, being nosy and bossy?
It was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
It worked out okay at the time. It was kind of interesting because parenting trends kind of switched in the middle of us raising our kids. So I feel like you could be kind of bossy as a parent, and then parenting switched. And then it kind of became, well, your child has all these choices. Another thing that was part of something that I would change going back as a mom is I really worried about how my kids would represent me. So if they were behaving well, then that meant, in my eyes, that I was a good mom, right? So I worried about that a lot. So if I could go back and do that, I would keep in mind, what do they want for themselves as an adult? So I have to tell kind of a story on Ivan. They were having prom, and a lot of the girls weren't being asked. And I said to him, why don't you ask one of these young women to prom? And he said, why would I do that? He said, it involves everything I don't like. He said, spending money, getting dressed up, dancing. Like, I don't want to do it. And that was kind of when I had my aha moment of, you know what, I've raised them. They've turned out how I wanted them to turn out by having their priorities and living by their priorities. So I would try and incorporate that even earlier. Instead of what do I want for them, I would think, what do they want for themselves? And then try and guide them in that direction and not worry so much about what does that say about me as a mom.
So all four of your children are grown and married and have children now,
yes,
correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So do you find that it's a different approach of parenting with them creating their own families?
That's a really good question. It's interesting because, for one, I did not expect to raise up my own best friends. So when they were little, that thought just never occurred to me. And then the other thought that never occurred to me is that they could marry potential friends for me, which, their spouses are lots of fun and wonderful, just like they are. But I'll tell you, our oldest daughter got married ahead of everyone else. And I remember thinking at times, well, I should tell them to do this, or I can tell Haley to do this. But then I didn't feel comfortable telling her husband, Jeff, to do this, right? Because he hadn't been my child all along. Mm-hmm. I forgot. Jeff said I could refer to him, but I had to use his full name.
Okay.
Which is Jeffrey R. Holland.
Okay, thank you.
Like for real.
Yes.
Okay. So Jeff was a good trainer for me as a mother-in-law. So Jeff is not very easily offended. And so I got 8 years of practice with him before we added another in-law. Mm-hmm. And he was very kind to me as a mother-in-law. But I definitely held my tongue even more after they got married, because that's their family. That's their choice as to what they do. I can't be telling them what to do. They have to live their own life.
And as you look back, and I'm going back to your comment about starting earlier as children so that they don't reflect you, right?
Right.
So how do you feel about that now?
I tease them. I'm not going to brag them up, but they're all, in my eyes, really successful. You know what I'm saying? In their career, in their marriages. And I tell them, I said, it's so embarrassing because you all are doing so well that it makes me look really braggy, when I talk about you, And so I'm just happy that they're happy. And just like everybody else, they have their tough times, we've had a tough month, 6 months, but that's just part of what life is, to make us who Heavenly Father wants us to be.
So I want to ask you about that tough time, and in context of that, you can incorporate other challenges that you've experienced in life and how you have dealt with it or gotten through it.
So I think our biggest challenge right now is Cammie's daughter being born with a very special heart. So she has had 1 open heart surgery so far.
And how old is she?
She is 5 months now. Yeah. So she was about 3 months when she had her first open heart surgery. I think the thing that has been so amazing is the resilience that Cammie and Cole have shown. Just accepting this challenge and just enjoying, their baby. I had no problem taking other grandkids away, from my daughter or son-in-law or daughter-in-law and son, oh, can I hold the baby? But I have to say, Cole, my son-in-law, he enjoys their baby so much that I actually feel guilty, saying, please hand me the baby. They just enjoy every moment with her, and she just is very happy, and in spite of everything that's going on. Of course, the baby has no idea,
That baby is a pretty happy baby.
Yeah.
Every picture I've seen of her is just a beautiful, happy baby. So it's interesting that when I ask you about the challenge that you're experiencing, you focus on this happiness and joy that Cammie and Cole are demonstrating to you. What's your takeaway from that? That there's a challenge and your response to it is happiness and joy.
Well, I have had a focus on gratitude for, I'm going to say, the last 3 years. So every morning I write down at least 5 things that I'm grateful for from the day before, and it kind of puts me in the right mindset for the day. The other thing that I've realized is usually whatever has happened has already happened. So when you choose gratitude, you're going with what, the universe is giving you. When you choose sadness or despair, it's already done. The thing has still happened. So you're kind of just fighting against yourself, having to do with these challenges that we all have. So I feel like it's better to put your energy into, what can I do from here, rather than this is the negative thing that I'm going to continue to fight in my mind.
Swim in and stew in for a little while. Instead of viewing it as a jumping off point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Your time in the morning with your gratitude journal, how did that habit develop?
Oh, my goodness. That's a good question. I had been reading a book that suggested having a gratitude journal. And the way they suggested it, it was just super simple. So I just do it in notes on my phone. And I incorporated it into reading my scriptures. So I do my gratitude journal, I read my scriptures, and I do that before I even get out of bed to make sure that I can get it done. So I'm a little more motivated because I get to stay in bed, and I use my gospel app to track my reading, which is really motivating. And then they have a thing now where it shows you how many days in a row that you've read.
And is that rewarding to you?
It is, especially because the last time that I missed reading my scriptures was the day that Laurie was born. So I look at that and I'm like, she is 175 days old, you know?
That's really fun.
So when I thought I had missed one day, I was like, oh, shoot, like it's not going to be how old she is anymore. So, yeah, it's super motivating to me.
That's really fun. What are some other things that you do to deal with challenges that come your way? You've shared about a gratitude journal. Are there other things that you like to do to deal with hard times?
Yes, I started meditating during the pandemic. Our daughter was getting married, and it was just really stressful. And I had read that meditation helped, so I decided that I would do it for 2 weeks, 10 minutes a day. And honestly, I expected my experiment to fail. So I expected at the end of 2 weeks that I would not feel any different than when I started. But I felt way better. And so I have tried to make it a habit 5 times a week to try and just keep my nervous system at a neutral place, because meditation affects your nerves and your parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxed nervous system, and it really works. It's been a game changer for me.
And so when do you fit that one in?
During the pandemic, I would do it after lunch because I was at home more, but now I have to do it in the morning. And if I don't do it in the morning, then I do it in the evening before I go to bed. And since my goal is 5 times a week, I can say, okay, it's okay if I miss today because my goal is 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
So
not every day.
Not every day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I figure you can't be stressed out not meditating, right? That seems kind of like a oxymoron.
Just stressed out that you didn't meditate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had said before that you don't like being out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
What are some times in your life that you have felt out of your comfort zone?
Well, I'm definitely not a risk taker. But one thing that I did the summer that I turned 21 was a man came to BYU and he hired about 20 of us to go to Cripple Creek, Colorado. And he had 5 different businesses there. So it was pretty interesting. I had to drive there all by myself, which I'm not a good long haul driver. When I got there, the instructions were to come into the gold store and report to the manager. And I came in crying because I was so tired. I'm sure they were just like, oh my gosh, who is this person that they've hired that they come into the gold store crying? So then what they did is they put us through the paces to see where they wanted us to work. So they had a gift shop at the gold mine. So they gave tours at the gold mine. They had a restaurant. They had like a variety store, and they had the gold store. And they put the people who were really good at selling in the gold store. So I landed in the gold store. We sold natural gold nuggets that all summer long we said were Colorado nuggets, right? Because people were coming to Colorado. Mm-hmm. And this is a souvenir of Colorado. And the owner was always the one that received the gold shipments. And then one day he wasn't there. So we received the gold shipment. And those natural gold nugget pendants and rings all came from Oroville, California. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like I grew up like right there. And I've been lying to people all summer that these are natural Colorado nuggets. But it was a super fun summer. We lived in the house. The girls lived in the house, and it was across the street from the jail. So the residents of the jail would be out in the yard yelling at us in our yard. And then they had a herd of donkeys that just went around. We had a lot of dandelions in our lawn. So the donkeys were usually grazing out on our lawn when we would walk down to work. And we'd wave to the prisoners as we left.
That sounds like a very quirky summer.
It was a very quirky summer.
Did you bring home an Oroville, California gold pendant?
No, I didn't.
From Colorado?
No, I brought home some natural gold nugget earrings. And obviously I have no idea where the gold is from. Probably not Colorado. Probably Oroville.
Okay. So tell us about another experience. I'm mostly interested in the one concerning Dave.
The one concerning Dave?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to switch it out for probably not the one you want.
Okay.
But the summer that I was in Colorado, I turned 21. And this is how I knew that Dave really liked me. Okay, so Dave's pretty reserved. And he decided to celebrate my birthday with my family that summer that I was gone. So my birthday's in June, and he went and visited my family, and they videoed the whole thing. So they went out to eat. We pretended to go to the movies on a double date, and I'm the camera, right? So it's a double date. They sang happy birthday to me. They went to a restaurant, and the waitress was like, "Are you celebrating your birthday?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Who is it?" And they're like, "Oh, she's not here." And then they opened all my presents and then darkened it so I couldn't see and then sent me the presents. So when I got the presents and the video in Cripple Creek, Colorado, we all watched it together. And my first thought was, oh my goodness, he really likes me to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did that feel out of your comfort zone for you?
No, that was okay. It just was a big eye opener.
Okay.
Like I didn't necessarily see it heading in that direction, but we had been dating, but my attitude was that I wait for no man. So when I called Dave and told him that I got the job, he was not very happy. He was like, oh, he's like, well, I hope you have a good summer. And I did.
And you did.
And
you still ended up with him.
Yes.
Especially after that birthday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell the story that you want me to tell. So things were kind of, I don't want to say dragging along, but I just wanted to see exactly where we were at. And so I told him that I was thinking of going on a mission. And, you know, what was his thoughts on that? And he said, I'll tell you what my thoughts are. And he immediately got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. And I was shocked. I said yes, but I was like, wow, you totally deserve that for pulling those tricks.
That was a good one. And you weren't really considering going on a mission?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. So you mentioned you grew up in a small family, one sister. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about things that you did together as a family growing up.
Okay. So one of the things that my sister and I did is we used to ride our bikes to the yogurt shop, which was a bit significant in that was like when frozen yogurt first came out.
Okay.
So like I remember being in high school and one of my friends asking me to go down to the organic shop and to have frozen yogurt, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But my sister and I were addicted to frozen yogurt. So we would ride in Red Bluff to the frozen yogurt store, and we'd play Pac-Man, and we'd eat frozen yogurt and Mrs. Pac-Man. And then we would always ride our bikes home a little more dangerously after having sat there, you know, playing Mrs. Pac-Man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Other things that we did is we literally took the same vacation every summer. So we were big into water skiing, and my sister and I slept in the tent, and my parents slept in the camper. But we wore our bathing suits at all times to be ready for when my dad, you know, knocked on the tent to go water skiing. So he would get up and come to the tent, and we would be sleeping in our bathing suits so that we could get the morning glass. And then we would play cards all afternoon and eat Oreos. So we played Nerds. That was our game of choice. Mm-hmm. We'd tube in the afternoon when the water wasn't good for water skiing. And then we would do evening ski after dinner. And you had to be careful with that because there was all kinds of mosquitoes out. So you skied with your mouth closed, or else you got a mouthful of mosquitoes. Mm-hmm. But those were some fun times. And two things that I remember in particular is my mom making me a cake in the camper because she'd made a really big deal about how I wouldn't get a cake. And then she brought all the stuff and made the cake. The other thing that was really memorable was they have a cave near Lake Shasta. So we always went to Lake Shasta or Lake Britain. And you could request the key and you could explore this cave. So we went and got the key. And the ranger said to my dad, "Are you an experienced spelunker?" And my dad said yes. And we got in the car. And my dad looked right at me and he said, what do you think spelunking means? And I was like, oh, shoot. Like, he is obviously not an experienced spelunker, whatever that means. So we made it into the cave and out of the cave, and everything was fine. But
do you spelunk to this day?
We did have one family vacation where we went to the lava tubes. The kids thought it was really fun, and it was great while we were in the caves, but we went in the summer. There was like no shade there. It was so hot. Like, I would not rank that as one of our better vacations. But the kids, there's one lava tube where it goes from 1 tube to 2 tubes to 4 tubes to 8 tubes. And so the kids really remember that one because we all separated and then all came back together. So they really like that one. I think the most memorable moment out of all of our family vacations is when we were coming home from Yellowstone. You know, like it's kind of like when you buy kids presents and then they play with the box kind of a thing. So
is this you and Dave and the kids?
This is me and Dave and the kids, yeah. And so we had spent this great week in Yellowstone, right? Fabulous. Saw all the things. And then if you ask the kids about that trip, this is the thing that they would all tell about. We were driving and a bird hit the windshield. And the girls were all just like, oh my gosh, this is awful. And the bird got caught in the windshield wiper. So Dave goes to do the windshield wipers thinking it will knock the bird off. But instead, the bird is just like going up and down in the windshield wiper. And the girls are just like, ah! And Ivan's just like, yay, this is the coolest thing ever. So we had to pull over and Dave got the bird out of the windshield wiper. But that's kind of how it goes with any kind of traveling with kids. It's the unplanned moments that are the most fun. You know,
the most memorable.
It snowed when we were in Yellowstone, and we did not really bring coats. We definitely didn't have gloves. You know, it snowed at least 6 inches, and the kids put socks on their hands and went outside, and eventually the snow melted. But that was a lot of fun for California kids that have not experienced snow, but nothing that we had planned.
I want to end with your bull's bugle.
Oh.
You toot your horn every year.
Right.
Okay. Will you tell us a little bit about that tradition in your family?
Sure. So we started with different kinds of Christmas newsletters. And those people that don't know me, I'm like a real person. And so I wanted it to be something that represented our life every day. So we did a few different things, and it was fine. And then we started having the kids write articles. And it's meant to just be snapshots of what happens throughout the year. It's by no means comprehensive, but it involves the good, the bad, the sad, the great. And so I write down quotes of what my family members say. So it includes quotes, and then they all take turns writing articles. I have to give a shout out to my daughter-in-law, Jordan, and my son-in-law, Taylor, because they have really embraced the Bull's Bugle. Like, as soon as Ivan moved out, he stopped writing for the Bull's Bugle. And, you know, the other kids do it, and I think they mostly enjoy it, but Jordan and Taylor really do a bang-up job, and I just really appreciate them coming to the family and embracing that tradition and enjoying it as much as I do.
And do you keep them from year to year? Do you have a scrapbook of them?
Yes. In fact, when, you know, the campfire happened, the big question was, okay, well, what would we save if we were in that position? And that is the very top number one thing that I would save is that binder with all of the Bull's bugles, because I feel like it's a snapshot of every year of our lives for at least the last 25, maybe longer.
I was going to ask how long you've been doing it. 25 years.
We've been married 35. I can't remember exactly when we started and when we started calling it the Bull's Bugle, because we did newsletters earlier, but we didn't call it that, and it had a different format. So I'm just not quite sure when we switched over.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming and visiting with us. We love your stories and hearing about your family and the great example that you are.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here.